There is a sacred discomfort that comes right before transformation, a kind of inner restlessness, a holy frustration. Your soul begins to feel like it's being stretched in ways you don't understand. But here's the truth: when life begins to unravel and everything you've built feels like it's slipping through your fingers, it can be terrifying. The job you thought was secure suddenly disappears. The relationship you invested in begins to crumble. Opportunities you were so sure of vanish overnight, and in the middle of it all, you're left wondering, why now? Why me? But what you may not realize in that very moment is that this break, and this moment of disorientation, loss, and confusion is often the exact place where breakthrough begins to take shape. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't feel like it. It certainly doesn't sound like it. But something sacred is happening beneath the surface, because here's the thing most people miss. Before anything significant is born, there is always a moment of tension, of pressure, of chaos. Think of a seed buried in the soil it has to break open in the dark before it can ever reach the light. And just like that seed, you too must sometimes experience a breaking before you bloom. That breaking is not your destruction, it is your awakening. It is the beginning of something God has already set into motion. The pieces that seem shattered are not the end of your story. They're the beginning of a new chapter that couldn't be written until you outgrew the old one. When everything feels like it's falling apart, it's not a punishment. It's a realignment, a shift, a divine rerouting. God doesn't break what He isn't about to bless. He doesn't strip away what He doesn't plan to replace with something better, something stronger, something rooted in truth. And while it hurts, while the breaking can feel unbearable, know this: blessings are almost always preceded by battles. Not because God is testing your worthiness, but because He's building your capacity to receive what's coming. That job loss might be the doorway to a calling you never dared to dream of. That betrayal might be the moment you learn to stand in your own power and rediscover your identity. That delay might be the pause that saves you from entering a room you were never meant to walk into. You see, when things start to break down, it's easy to think everything's going wrong, but in reality, everything might finally be going right. What's falling away is not what's meant to stay. What's being removed is not what was meant to last. God, in His wisdom, allows the collapse so that He can rebuild your life with a stronger foundation. And the most amazing part: often your greatest growth happens in the silence, in the quiet spaces where you feel most alone. That's where clarity is born, that's where faith is refined, that's where God's voice is the loudest. You may not see the blessing yet, but that doesn't mean it's not coming. The discomfort, the breakdown, the disruption, it's all a sign that something is shifting in the heavens on your behalf. You're not being abandoned. You're being positioned, because the old version of you can't carry the new blessing that's on its way. And before you walk into that next level, you have to be willing to let go of what no longer serves you. So, if everything around you is shaking, if you feel like you're losing more than you're gaining, don't panic. Don't retreat. Don't assume you're being punished or forgotten. Instead, take a deep breath and remind yourself, this is what it looks like before something beautiful begins. This is the holy chaos before the divine order. This is what happens right before the breakthrough. The breakdown is not your defeat, it's your doorway. And if you can just hold on through the shaking, you will walk into something that was always meant for you, something greater than you ever imagined, something only God could make possible. There are moments in life when everything slows down, and the silence feels louder than any crowd ever did. The phone stops ringing, the conversations fade, and the spaces once filled with laughter become quiet. You look around and suddenly realize the people who used to walk beside you have drifted. The connections you once leaned on seem to loosen, and the comfort of routine disappears without warning. At first, it feels like abandonment. It feels like something has gone wrong, like you've been forgotten, overlooked, or even punished. But what many don't understand is that this isolation is not a rejection. It is a divine strategy. When God is preparing to bless you in ways you cannot yet see, He first sets you apart. He takes you away from the noise, the chaos, the distractions, not to hurt you, but to help you hear him clearly. In a world full of constant movement and endless voices, God chooses to speak in the quiet. He draws you into a space where it's just you and him, because what he's about to do in your life requires your full attention. You can't carry the weight of your next blessing if your hands are full of past attachments. You can't walk into your future while clinging to what's no longer meant to be part of your journey. So he isolates you. He removes the unnecessary. He pauses the relationships, slows down the opportunities, and allows you to feel the discomfort of being alone, because it's in that discomfort that you begin to grow. It's in that quiet space that you begin to discover the strength you didn't know you had, the faith you didn't know was possible. The resilience that only isolation can build. There is something powerful about being in a place where there's no one to impress and nothing to prove. It forces you to look inward, to examine your heart, your fears, your desires. It's where masks fall away and truth rises to the surface. In isolation, you confront your doubts. You sit face to face with your purpose. You begin to untangle yourself from the opinions of others and the pressure to perform. And slowly, without even realizing it, you become more grounded, more aware, more connected to who you are and whose you are. That is why God chooses isolation, not to punish you, but to purify you, not to tear you down, but to build you up for the weight of the blessing that is coming, because the blessing God has for you isn't small. It isn't light. It requires preparation. It requires strength. It requires clarity. And if you're still entangled in the opinions, validation, and noise of the crowd, you won't be ready for what's ahead. So the isolation becomes your training ground. It becomes the place where your spirit is strengthened, your vision is sharpened, and your dependence on God becomes unshakable. In that stillness, you learn that peace isn't found in people, it's found in presence. In God's presence, you learn that validation doesn't come from applause, it comes from alignment. And most importantly, you learn that sometimes the greatest breakthroughs begin in the quietest moments. So if you find yourself alone, misunderstood, cut off, or left behind, don't rush to fill the silence. Don't run from the stillness, lean into it, let it do its work. Let God whisper to your soul, reveal what needs to go, and restore what needs to grow. What feels like a lonely season is often the most sacred one, because in it you're not being left out, you're being set apart. You're not being punished, you're being positioned. And when the blessing finally comes, you'll carry it not with fear, but with the quiet confidence that only grows in the hidden place. There are times when everything inside you feels unsettled, when nothing fits the way it used to, when your heart begins to ache for something more, and you can't quite explain why. You feel like you're being stretched, pulled in directions you've never been before, and though no one around you sees it, you know something is shifting. That restlessness, that frustration, that stirring deep in your soul. It's not random, and it's not wrong. It's a sign that you are growing. It's a sign that God is doing something new in you. And while it feels like discomfort, it is actually the process of becoming. Growth never announces itself with comfort, ease, or predictability. Instead, it often shows up as a disruption, a breaking, an undoing of everything you thought was stable. And though it's hard to understand in the moment, the pain you feel is often the sign that something greater is on the horizon. When God begins to prepare you for the next level, He doesn't do it through comfort. He does it through pressure. He stretches your patience. He tests your endurance. He reveals your hidden wounds, and in doing so, He begins to reshape your identity. Because in order to carry the blessing He has for you, you cannot stay the same. You can't hold onto old habits, old mindsets, or old fears. Growth demands that something be released, something be confronted, and something be healed. That's why it feels so uncomfortable. That's why you find yourself questioning everything. That's why your spirit feels restless even when your life looks the same on the outside. You are being refined, molded, prepared for a blessing that your current self is not yet ready to hold. This discomfort is sacred. It is divine tension. It is the space between who you were and who you are becoming, and though it feels messy and unclear, it's necessary. You cannot pray for elevation and resist the process that comes with it. You cannot ask God to enlarge your territory and then shrink back when the stretching begins. Every blessing comes with weight, with responsibility, with purpose. And if you're not growing into the version of yourself that can handle it, the blessing can become too much. So God allows the stretching. He allows the agitation. He allows the moments where nothing makes sense, because in those moments you learn to let go of what no longer serves you. You begin to rely less on what's comfortable and more on what's true. You stop looking for validation in others and start looking inward. Where the real work is happening, the frustration you feel is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is awakening. You're being called higher. You're being pushed to expand. You're being reminded that staying the same is no longer an option. And yes, it's scary. Yes, it's lonely at times. Yes, it challenges everything in you. But it's also proof that you haven't given up. It's proof that you're still growing, still evolving, still becoming. You're not stuck. You're being stretched. And on the other side of this discomfort is a version of you that is stronger, wiser, and more aligned with God's purpose. So don't run from the discomfort. Don't numb it, dismiss it, or try to escape it. Sit with it, learn from it. Allow it to teach you what needs to be released and what needs to be rebuilt. Let it break you open in the best possible way, so that the parts of you that have been hidden, silenced, or buried can finally rise. This is not just pain, it's preparation. This is not the end, it's the beginning of something deeper, richer, and more powerful than you've ever known. There are seasons when you try everything in your power to make something work. But no matter how hard you try, the door just won't open. You apply for opportunities and hear nothing. You pour your heart into a relationship that suddenly falls apart. You set plans in motion only to watch them unravel right before your eyes. In those moments, it's tempting to question your worth, your decisions, even your faith. You start to wonder if you're doing something wrong or if God is even listening at all. But what you may not realize is that sometimes those closed doors are not rejections. They are divine protection. They are not punishment but preservation. What feels like loss may actually be grace in disguise, shielding you from a path that was never meant for your good. We tend to think that open doors are the only evidence of God's favor, but often it's the closed doors that carry the greatest blessing. You don't always see what's behind those doors, what dangers, what distractions, what detours they might hold. So when God closes a door, He's not just saying no. He's saying not this way. He's guiding you around the traps you cannot see. He's steering you away from the people who might drain your spirit, or the environments that might diminish your purpose. And though it hurts in the moment, one day you'll look back and realize that what didn't happen for you actually happened for you when you ask for direction. You have to trust the path, even when it doesn't look like what you expected. Sometimes God has to interrupt your plans to protect your destiny, because He sees the whole picture. He knows the weight of the assignment He placed on your life, and He won't allow you to settle in a place that cannot sustain it. So when that job falls through, when that relationship ends, when that plan fails, it's not always the enemy working against you. Sometimes it's God working for you in ways you don't understand, yet you may not realize how that opportunity you wanted could have pulled you away from your purpose. You may not understand how that person you thought you needed was actually limiting your growth. You may not be able to see how that delay is setting you up for something far greater than you were about to settle for. But God sees, God knows, and God blocks what does not align with the blessing He's preparing for you. So every time a door closes, instead of asking why me, start asking what's next. Instead of focusing on what didn't work, shift your attention to what God might be clearing space, for it takes faith to trust a closed door. It takes strength to keep walking when the way forward is unclear. But this is where your character is built. This is where your faith grows deeper. Because trusting God doesn't just mean celebrating when things go your way. It means believing He's still good when they don't. It means holding on even when you don't understand. It means knowing that a closed door is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a better one, so don't force what God is trying to free you from. Don't chase what He's trying to protect you from. Don't cling to something just because it's familiar if it's not aligned with your future. If a door closes, let it close. If something walks away, let it walk. Because what's meant for you will never require you to beg, to shrink, or to settle. What's meant for you will be open at the right time, in the right way, with the right peace. And when that happens, you won't have to force it because you'll know. It was always God's plan for you to walk through it. There comes a point in your journey where the silence becomes deafening, where prayers feel unanswered, and the progress you hoped for seems invisible. You begin to wonder if you've been forgotten, if you've slipped through the cracks of God's plan, if somehow your name was skipped when blessings were handed out. It's a lonely feeling, one that creeps in quietly and settles in your chest, making you question everything you once believed. But in those quiet seasons, in the moments where it feels like nothing is happening, something sacred is actually taking place. You are not being forgotten. You are being refined. You are not being ignored. You are being prepared for something your current self cannot fully grasp. And the silence is not a void. It is a holy space where God begins to reshape what the world cannot see when God starts refining you. It doesn't always look or feel like progress. Sometimes it feels like stillness, like being stuck in the same place while others around you seem to move forward. But what God is doing within you is deeper than visibility. It's in your heart, in your thoughts, in your character, in the unseen parts of you that will one day be the foundation for everything He's about to release in your life. He's not just preparing the blessing for you. He's preparing you for the blessing. Because to whom much is given, much is required, and God loves you too much to elevate you before you're ready to carry the weight of it. So while it may feel like delay, it's actually development. While it may feel like being held back, it's actually being held together in the most intentional way. The refinement process is not meant to be comfortable. It is meant to be transformative. It removes what's unnecessary. It confronts what's hidden. It strengthens what's weak. It forces you to face truths you've ignored and wounds you've covered. It asks you to let go of pride, of fear, of comparison, and to trade them for wisdom, for peace, for faith that is unshakable. And it's not a quick process. It takes time. It takes surrender. It takes a willingness to allow God to shape your identity from the inside out. Because what's coming requires a version of you that's not easily broken, easily distracted, or easily discouraged. So God, in His wisdom, keeps you in the quiet, keeps you in the wait, not because He has forgotten you, but because He is finishing something in you. You are not waiting for no reason. Every delay has a purpose. Every silent day is filled with unseen work, and though others may not notice your growth, though you may not even notice it yourself, trust that something is changing, trust that you're becoming. Trust that every time you chose to keep going instead of giving up, every time you chose to believe instead of doubt, every time you prayed when it didn't feel like it mattered, you were being refined. You were being rooted in something deeper than surface success. You were being anchored in something that no storm could shake. So even if no one applauds you right now, even if you feel invisible, even if your life doesn't yet reflect the dreams in your heart, don't mistake refinement for rejection. Don't confuse silence with absence. God is closer than ever in the refining. He is shaping the version of you that will not just survive the blessing, but will sustain it, because the goal is not just to arrive, it's to endure, to grow, to walk in the fullness of what's been prepared for you. And that kind of strength can only be built in the hidden place, in the space where God does His most powerful work, not in front of crowds, but in the quiet where only you and He can see what's really being formed. There are moments in your life when you can feel something is shifting, even if nothing around you has changed. You begin to sense that everything you've endured, all the battles you've fought in silence, all the prayers you whispered through tears, all the nights you questioned your strength, are leading you towards something you can't yet see. It's as if the atmosphere around you is different. You wake up with a strange peace that you can't explain. You start letting go of things that once consumed your energy. The need for constant control fades, and a quiet trust starts to take its place. That shift, that deep internal transformation, is a sign that the blessing is already on the way, not just being planned, not just being thought about. It's already in motion, already moving, already aligning itself with your name. The blessing is never a random event. It's the result of what has been building quietly while you remained faithful. It's what begins to arrive when your spirit finally surrenders, when your heart opens without resistance, when your soul begins to rest instead of striving. Sometimes the greatest evidence that a blessing is near is not found in external signs, but in the internal shift that takes place within you, that calm in the storm, that confidence in the unknown, that sudden clarity in the middle of confusion. That's how God works. He prepares you inwardly for what He is about to release outwardly. He transforms your heart before He transforms your circumstances. Because if you can receive the blessing in peace, you're more likely to carry it with purpose. There is something incredibly powerful about holding on when it would be easier to let go. There's a strength that develops in you when you choose to keep believing, even when there's no visible proof. And that strength is not wasted. It is seen, it is measured, it is honored. The faith you showed in private is about to be answered in public. The tears you cried that no one saw are being turned into joy. The waiting season, though long and often lonely, was not empty. It was sacred. It was a time of pruning, preparation, and purpose. And now that season is beginning to shift. You're not stepping into the blessing by accident. You've been walking toward it the whole time. Even when it felt like you were standing still, the blessing that is coming will not just match your prayers. It will exceed them. It will make sense of the delays. It will reveal the purpose behind the pain. It will restore the parts of you that were worn down by the waiting. And it will come with a kind of peace that confirms it's from God. Because real blessings don't bring confusion. They don't make you question your worth. They don't leave you feeling anxious or uncertain. Real blessings come with clarity, confirmation, and contentment. And the reason you can trust that your blessing is near is because your heart has been prepared to receive it. Your character has been shaped to sustain it, and your faith has been strengthened enough to honor it, so hold on. Even when you don't feel strong, even when the road is long, even when the voices around you tell you it's too late, hold on because God hasn't forgotten you. Hold on because the blessing is not just a possibility, it's a promise. Hold on because every step you've taken, every sacrifice you've made, every moment you chose hope over fear has led you here. You're not waiting for the blessing anymore. The blessing is already finding its way to you. All that's left to do now is stay ready, stay faithful, and stay open to receive it with the quiet strength and peace that only comes from knowing it was always meant for youth. At deep stirring in your spirit, that holy discomfort, that silent space where God becomes loud. That is the #1 sign. Your blessing is coming. Don't miss it.